First up today, we're going to hear, though, on the main stage from Raul Romanati, who is at Parity Technologies, helping and heavily engaged in on-chain governance, both in Polkadot and Kusama communities, and he's going to actually talk about the treasury today. So one of the major challenges facing nascent crypto networks is how to pay for the work. Simple excitement and owning Bitcoin was enough for the early BTC core devs, but that period is long gone. Period of time is long gone. When Gav and the early Ethereum team built Ethereum, there was an early sale of ETH, but that sort of money quickly ran out, markets crashed, and they really were stretched thin to find funds to actually deliver the protocol. Polkadot solves these problems by having a on-chain treasury funded by the network itself, and money is able to be allocated to teams to support the protocol through the on-chain governance process, which Raul is going to dive into with you today. Welcome, Raul.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. For those who don't know me, my name is Raul. I'm a Polkadot and Kusama Council member, and I'm here to talk to you today about a very novel, decentralized, and on-chain mechanism that can help you raise funds for developing your project and to help your team stay in touch with the Polkadot ecosystem. And this mechanism are the Polkadot and Kusama treasuries. Now, the Polkadot and Kusama treasuries, as we said before, are a new decentralized funding mechanism. We say that they come from the community to the community. And we say that because of two things. The first one is because on Polkadot and on Kusama, the treasury is funded via slashing events, transaction fees, and staking inefficiencies. And how the treasuries are spent is a responsibility of the council, a collective that is part of the governance design. So the council is the guardian of the treasury and decides on its spending as representative of the passive stakeholders in the networks. But the funds belong to the community. These funds are distributed and spent on each spend period. A spend period on Polkadot is 24 days and on Kusama is 7 days. If your team submit a proposal for the treasury and it gets approved, then you will get the funds from the treasury to the beneficiary account at the end of each spend period. We have at the moment different funding categories, but we have to understand that these categories are not static, and they change in a dynamic way according to the network evolution and to the network needs. So let's go through them so you can understand a bit more of what kind of proposals the treasury can fund. Originally, the treasuries were thought as a way to fund public infrastructure. Public infrastructure is essentially very, very important for these networks, and we need them in order to understand and to run Polkadot and Kusama ecosystems. However, the teams developing these particular projects never or rarely have a business model behind the project. And so they need support from the treasury and from the community in order to run their operations and maintain these particular projects. Really good examples of this are the Polkascan Explorer and the Subscan Explorers, all funded by Kusama and Polkadot treasuries, but also other type of proposals for infrastructure, like, for example, the Patrick Labs team who are working on WASM and smart contract pallets deployment and infrastructure. A second good category to think about is network security operations. Network security operations mean any type of projects that are focusing on monitoring services and continuous auditing of the code, the pallets, and the protocols that we have in place for Polkadot and Kusama. Ecosystem provisions is a third type of category that allows us to give to end users the possibility to understand and participate on the network in better ways. The governance-focused mobile app, for example, by LittenTree, which allows users to understand and participate in the governance design of Polkadot and Kusama, is a great way to exemplify what this category is all about. We also have at the right of this slide software development as an engineering category, right? When we talk about software development, we're talking about the integration of wallets and the development of new wallets, all funded by the Kusama and the Polkadot treasuries, of course. But we also have other type of categories that are not technical, categories that are non-engineering categories. And these categories are marketing activities and community events and outreach. These two categories are essential to maintain the Polkadot community, to grow the community, and to educate new users into what these networks can do. When we talk about marketing activities, we're talking about activities and proposals that raise awareness of Polkadot ecosystem, of Polkadot network, and of Kusama. One really good example of this is the first Polkadot bounty, which is implemented by the Decoded team that will be talking after me, so I encourage you to listen to their talk. This bounty has the goal of maturing the brand for the next stage and the next development of Polkadot. Another really good example of marketing activities proposal is the Polka World organization, which is an organization that helps the Polkadot Chinese community be aware and updated into the latest developments, share information and resources and tutorials on how to use Polkadot and Kusama network. When we talk about communities, events, and outreach, we're talking about the organization of any type of events. We're talking about hackathons, meetups, conferences that help raise awareness of blockchain technology and in particular of the Polkadot ecosystems. A few weeks ago, the CKV validator team, for example, organized and set up a really cool event focused solely on privacy teams on the Polkadot network. And another really good example about this particular category is the Encode Club's 12 months program. The program is organized by Encode and is funded by the Polkadot Treasury. And it consists of 3 basic phases for teams to fund, structure, and set up their projects. It's an education program, it's a hackathon program, and it's also an incubator program that allows you to develop your project further. Now, it is very important to understand that the Council at the moment has 3 ways to spend the treasury on both Kusama and Polkadot. And these 3 mechanisms are the tipping mechanism, the spending proposals, and also the bounties. What they have in common is that any token holder can submit a tip, any token holder can submit a spending proposal or a bounty for the Council to review, evaluate, and approve a proposal. When we talk about tips, we're talking about rewarding awesome contributions. So for example, video tutorial translations are usually there in the list of tips for Council members to review and endorse. When we talk about a spending proposal, we're talking about something very similar of a grants program, which allows the Council to review and evaluate the development and the milestones in order to fund these projects. And when we talk about bounties, we're talking of something very similar as a spending proposal, but instead of the Council reviewing and evaluating, the Council delegates this particular responsibility to an expert that is called a curator. In the case of the Koto Studio bounty, for example, for the rebrand of the Polkadot network brand, the implementers are Koto, but the curators is composed of a multisig from 4 lead marketing experts from the Polkadot ecosystem that review and evaluate the progress on this particular bounty. I would like to talk a bit more about spending proposals because this particular mechanism has been the most used for teams in order to get funding. Spending proposals, as I told you, work as a grant program, mid-long term, for projects that have more than 1 or 2 milestones. And in general, there are 4 basic steps you need to follow in order to apply for funds. The first one is the proposal draft. Of course, the team that wants to submit an application for funds will need to present their proposal to the Council and to the community in general to get feedback. The Decoded team right now can share a link with the guidelines and a template that includes the minimum information needed in order for a project to succeed on an approval for the Treasury. Once the proposal is ready, then it's time to publish. We do this all off-chain at the moment in Polk Assembly and in Commonwealth, which are forums we use in order to discuss ideas, ask questions for the councillors to give feedback or to make comments on particular Treasury proposals. This particular step is really, really important because it allows you to incorporate the feedback from Council to your proposal in order to minimize the risk of rejection when you submit on chain. Once the proposal is ready and you have incorporated all of the feedback from Council, then it's time to submit on chain. When you submit on chain, a Council member will pass your Treasury proposal as a motion to the Council to be voted. On Polkadot, you need 8 positive votes in order to get approved, and on Kusama, you need 12 positive votes in order to get approved. After the council has voted, the funds that you requested will be transferred from the treasury to the beneficiary account directly, and you can start with the development of your project. We have recently added one more step to spending proposals, which is external reviews. We call them external because these are reviews of deliverables or milestones that are performed by external people to the council or to the team that has proposed the submission. In general, for technical reviews, we have a group of developers who are able to do this. And for non-technical or non-engineering reviews, we also have marketing experts, but any token holder can submit its application in order to become a reviewer. The reviewers basically assess the quality of a deliverable, and this allows Council to approve the continuation of the next milestone. And reviewers, of course, get rewarded for this through the tipping mechanism. Regarding the particular feedback that you will need from Council on step 2 when you publish your proposal, this is an example of a template that in general proposers use in order to structure and set up their document that will explain what the project is about. Contextual information is something that we cannot add to Polkadot and Kusama network at the moment on an on-chain submission in order to save storage. However, Polkassembly, a forum, allows us to discuss this idea, give feedback, make any comments in order for the team to answer any questions the council might have. Make sure in your proposal to add the milestones, the solution that you're envisioning, what are the costs and the resources needed, and an overall budget for the council to understand how you will spend the funds that come from the community. Now, if we see numbers, we know that Kusama network is a bit older than Polkadot network, about 5 or 6 months. And currently on Kusama, we can see that more than 90 proposals have been submitted to Kusama to be reviewed and evaluated by the council. Of these 90 proposals, more than 67 have been awarded by the Kusama council to spend for the treasury. About 250 tips have been awarded on Kusama, 5 bounties were active, and more than 330,000 Kusama tokens are available in the treasury for your team to be able to get funds and develop the project. In the case of Polkadot, we can see that more than 50 projects were submitted to the Polkadot network for consideration of the Polkadot Council. Of these 50, more than 47 were awarded proposals on Polkadot network. We have at the moment 164 submitted tips on Polkadot and more than 40 million DOT tokens for your team to apply for funds. As we can see on the graph, not only on the Polkadot one, but also in the Kusama one, public infrastructure has been a very dominant category in the past year for both Polkadot and Kusama treasuries, but also ecosystem provisions. And interestingly enough, community events and marketing is ramping up. So make sure that if you have an idea that you think can bring awareness about the Polkadot ecosystem, blockchain technology in general, you should be able to submit your proposal to the council for review. Now, how I said before, these categories that we talked about are not a static list. They're dynamic, right? They change and they adapt to the network needs and to the network evolution. At the moment, from the existing categories, and given the latest developments on Kusama and Polkadot, council members aim to focus their efforts on, of course, public infrastructure still, community events, outreach and education, software development, and cross-chain tooling. I would like to talk about 3 of the new potential categories that will join the current categories in order for you to understand where we're going with treasury funding. The first type of category that we would like to see funded by the Treasury is research and development. We know, for example, that behavioral economics is an essential part to understand decentralized networks. So it could be very useful for the whole community if the Treasury could fund non-marketing creative patronage, substrate tutorials, academic and non-academic articles development, for example, focusing on crowd loans, auctions, parachain deployment analysis, surveys and experiments, but also non-monetary incentive experiments like the one that we are studying in the Kusama and the Polkadot Council in order to increase participation in the governance side of things. But also we can see other examples in Kusama. For example, art and installations. We have the Vauxhall Bridge proposal example that will be developed this year in the Vancouver Biennale. We have documentaries that we have funded, and also non-academic papers. And of course, the educational efforts are very, very important and essential in order for the community to growth. So any effort involving hackathons, governance conferences, privacy-focused events, substrate seminars, tutorials, all of this material and resources can be funded by the Treasury in order to be developed. Regarding the second potential category, as we all know, blockchain needs dramatic UX improvement. Really user-friendly as it is today, and Polkadot ecosystem is not the exception. So the Treasury would like to see much more UX improvement in audits proposal in order to improve and to enhance the user experience in our ecosystem. And some of the examples that we envision are improvements on Polkadot JS apps or audits on Polkadot JS apps and the Polkadot extension for browser, audits of wallets funded by one of the treasuries, or even security and wallet management education you have in blockchain in general or in the Polkadot ecosystem in particular is also a good category or a good topic to be funded by the Treasury. Regarding the third potential category that we could see happening as funding by the Treasury, developing new type of infrastructure and tools for cross-chain applications will become essential given the next development of both Kusama and Polkadot. So we have to start thinking about our ecosystem as a multi-chain environment in which different chains will be communicating with each other. And this should be also reflected in the way the Treasury funds new projects. So we're eager to see proposals for applications that need to take into consideration chain interactions, applications that should be developed taking into account the user experience, so the users can see the interface as similar or friendlier than it is now, but the application itself handle all the cross-chain complexity underneath. So some of the examples that we envision here as part of the council is storage solution, indexers, block explorers, or async testing tools. It's very important to understand that these are potential categories that will come up in the future and that will be added next to others because the networks, both Kusama and Polkadot, are changing and evolving. And so do not forget about the current categories, but take into account that according to the network needs, these categories might change or new ones will be added. I encourage everyone, all team, all community members to join the Polkadot Direction channel and the Kusama Direction channel on Element, to join our Discord server, contact your council members, make sure you ask any questions. You can also contact me on my email, my Twitter. You can also find me in these channels in order to answer any questions that you may have about the funding process. We're there for you, and we're here to give you all of the feedback you need to make your project succeed. So thank you very much. I think we have time for some questions, right?
Yeah, thank you very much, Raul. I have a couple questions here for you. First off, I think a lot of people are interested, could I potentially get funding to build a parachain from the council or from the Treasury at this point?
Right. The council view on this is very particular. You can get funding to develop a parachain as long as the parachain is a common good parachain. Common good parachains are essential for the network success. And so the Treasury is willing to fund efforts that are focused on common good parachains development. In the case of parachains that have a native token and that have a business model behind, then this is a bit more restricted by the council in that sense. However, open source palettes that will be used in specific parachains and that any other team member can use, for example, can be funded by the Treasury.
Yeah, so the answer to sort of the second part of the question is like the project that has its own token, probably not something for the public good funding. And for more information on common good chains, Joe will be giving the first talk on stage one right after this next talk from Koto about what in particular makes a common good parachain. Another question here, shouldn't marketing activities also include educational workshops, evangelist talks, and like local offline advertising? There seems to be more focus on building than adoption initiatives from the Treasury thus far.
There are different proposals out there. If you visit Polk Assembly, you will be able to see that the marketing activities are focusing very different topics throughout the ecosystem, and this also changes dynamically. Definitely the conference funding, hackathons, and meetups funding, it's something that the Council is very, very interested to fund in order to provide education to developers and non-developers about the functioning of the Polkadot ecosystem.
Great. We have a question here from Shevdor. He was asking, interested in joining the council, what do I need to do? Asking for a friend.
Sure. So council members are elected by token holders. So if you want to become a council member, you need to first submit your candidacy on Polkadot.js apps on the governance tab, and then lobby in order to get support from different token holders in the community so they can vote for your candidacy in order to be part of the set of councilors that will make it into the next session. Definitely any token holder can be part of the council. You just need to submit your application and explain. You can also use Polk Assembly or the channels, explain why are you submitting your candidacy and why do you aim to do with your council seat.
Great. Another question here. If I want to fund bounties or grants that I create, is there a pre-built mechanism to do that using Polkadot?
You can use Polkadot.js apps and submit your bounty on-chain to be reviewed by the council. You will find the tab under Treasury or under Bounties, I think it is. You will need to add the contextual information on Polk Assembly to the post that is generated automatically in order for the council to review your proposal. But yeah, it is possible.
Great. Last question here, I think at top of everyone's mind. Can I get funding for pizza and beer from the Polkadot Treasury?
As long as it's on a meetup or in a conference or an event that helps the Polkadot ecosystem growth and educate others, then for sure, yes, you can.
Awesome. I'll be all over that. Thank you very much, Raul.